Planning a marketing campaign can seem daunting, especially if you're new to marketing or not quite sure where to start. Starting with the right things and planning properly makes your marketing campaigns a success. I've launched over 200 marketing campaigns and driven over $90 million worth of revenue, and I'm going to show you the best way to plan a marketing campaign. I'm Gina. I'm a marketing director from South London. I've spent the last 15 years working at startups and scale-ups, building out marketing departments and marketing processes and functions. I have perfected running a marketing campaign over the last 15 years and created this formula so you don't have to spend that time yourself. If you work in a small business or a startup, getting back to the basics and understanding how to execute a marketing campaign properly is key to growth. And if you're just starting out or you're trying to run marketing by yourself, knowing how to plan a campaign, what to focus on, what to do first, what to pay attention to can save you time, effort, and money. This video is going to teach you step by step how to plan a marketing campaign for success. I'm going to tell you how to set it up, where you need to focus your efforts, and I'm also going to give you a trick to make sure that you're set up for ongoing success. Now, the first thing you're going to do when planning your marketing campaign is to pick your tool. Now, I use Notion. I've created a tool for you in Notion, completely free, so grab it yourself. But if you already use another tool, that's absolutely fine. But you need to make sure that you've got a tool that has a centralized a system where you can input into it and you can always go back to it. People forget that the tool is part of the planning, so head to my comment section, grab yourself a free Notion template, set yourself up on Notion. It's the perfect tool for marketing planning. But now you have your tool, the first thing you need to focus on is your audience. Before you have your objectives or your ideas, you need to know who you're actually talking to. Most marketers start with objectives. We've all read Simon Sinek. We always think it should be objective-led. But without knowing who your campaign is for, you will fail. You need to know who you're doing your marketing campaign for before you understand what you're trying to drive from them. So the first step for any marketing campaign is to do your audience research. Know your audience. Once you know who you're making this for, and if you don't know how to do audience research, stay tuned because I will tell you, you want to then know what you're trying to do. So the three things you're understanding with marketing is who are you asking to do something, what are you asking them to do? And then how are you going to get it? So the second step is what are your objectives? Your goals and objectives. What are you trying to drive? If you don't know what you're trying to drive from a certain demographic, you have no marketing campaign. So you know who and you know what. And now we move on to the meaty bit that a lot of people start with, which is the how, the functionality. And the first thing to focus on in the how isn't the content, isn't anything big and splashy. It is your messaging, narrative, and storytelling. Knowing who you are talking to, knowing what you're trying to achieve, and then knowing what you're going to say. A lot of small brands and startups fall down here because they get very carried away with what other people are doing and planning a campaign and a marketing piece that goes out. What you really need to focus on is what are you saying? The fundamentals of marketing are not the sexy things. They are the things that are the deep work. It's knowing who you want to talk to. It's understanding what the effort of talking to them will achieve for your business. And then it's what you're actually saying, how you're framing it. So your messaging has to come first before your campaign planning. I do a full course where I teach you how to do these three core components, which is essentially knowing who you're talking to and knowing what to say. But this is what needs to come before any of your marketing campaign planning. So now you have your who, what, and how you're saying that to them. You need to think about your design elements. Instead of going into the big idea, you need to think about the things you're going to do as a brand that keep it cohesive. If you are very new, if you're a startup, you might not have a brand book. If you're a small business, you probably have a brand book already. And if you're a solopreneur, you need to start thinking about these things before your first marketing campaign because you can't get caught up in the splashy. You need to make sure that you have a cohesiveness. Keeping things cohesive builds trust. It builds that power of brand. So before you think about what you're actually putting out, think about the design elements that stay consistent. Consistency across messaging, consistency across each of your channels is really important when you're marketing. So the next thing, what are your cohesive design elements? Then you want to move into the strategy. And marketing strategy is always such a buzzword, but what strategy means is just plan. You've taken your core objectives, your audience understanding and what you're saying, and now you need a plan of when you're going to say that across different channels. It is that simple. Your strategy elements will be made up of things like email marketing, content marketing, social marketing, out of home. So you need to think about all your different strategy elements that you're using. Insert into that the messaging that you've already agreed on. How is that going to be distributed across each channel? And then create the actionable steps to that plan running out. Whether that is a tease and then a post, whether that is a video, whether that is a webinar, whether that is a blog. A marketing strategy is not a scary term. All that marketing strategy is taking the element of strategy. So what is the vehicle of the strategy? Understanding the component that's going to go into that webinar, infographic, how that messaging is being translated, and then how that folds out. What times is it going on social? What times is it going on YouTube? Do this for each strategy element that you have. Use my Notion template to plan out each part of your campaign by simply picking which element in the dropdown and then moving the dates around. If you are new to Notion, drop me a comment and I will do a tutorial on how to use it. But whatever your tool you are using at this point, you want to make sure that you have that strategy laid out for all to see. Once you have that plan is when you want to look at your budget. The plan, the strategy, is something that comes before you think of the actual budget, because you want to know what the best way to maximize on that marketing campaign is, and then you want to see what is viable and doable. A lot of small brands start with budget first and try to see what they can get out of their spend, but it's far more beneficial to go the other way around and think, how do I get the perfect message to drive these objectives to this exact audience, and then realize what you can do with your budget. If you're a small brand, a startup, or doing it yourself, you are likely going to have very little to no budget. So make sure you stay tuned to see what free strategies I'm giving away on how you can maximize your marketing. But budget often comes after the fact. When you start your marketing campaign, you will have an idea of spend, which you will want to have. Your budget is your breakdown of where that spend is going. And the reason why you do this after you've looked at your strategy is because you want to know where you're investing the money. The best thing to do when you're a startup, when you're a small brand, when you are doing this yourself, is to understand where your investment is going. Instead of attributing spend at the beginning of a plan to think that's how much I'm going to put into it, do a budget after you've put your strategy together to understand where you're investing the most money and what execution is the best in order to put the cash into. Do you see how doing it this way around, you've come up with the best ideas and you're investing the money properly rather than taking a scattergun approach of, I'm going to spend X on social, Y on email. This is the thing that a lot of people miss. They start with a budget instead of thinking about what the actual way to get your objectives hit is. Now that you've got the budget and the spend of each thing that you're doing across your strategy, it's time to plan out your content. As we've gone through these steps, your audience remains, your objective remains, your messaging remains, your strategy remains, but your content can be changed. If you know that you've not got as much budget as you first wanted, or if you've moved your budget around, you can do text-based threads. You can do simple posts. You can do UGC. The budget comes before the content because that's how you know how to execute, but the strategy comes before the budget because that's how you know what you think will work and you're trying to test. Now, once you've done that content planning, you need to assign tasks. That is the marketing planning, but now it's about task assigning and execution. My Notion template is great because there's a place for accountable. If you're a small business, you're probably going to be having the same people doing everything. If you are a solopreneur, it is you, but still put yourself as accountable, still put yourself against tasks so that every single thing in this strategy to content, to execution, sending the email out, posting on social, is split out into tasks that are easily executed and ticked off by an accountable person, even if that is always you. And the last thing you need to do is to make sure you're monitoring it. With this Notion template, you will get a snapshot every week of where you're at with the tasks, but also where you're at with the output. I've actually built you the ultimate marketing hub that is so simple to use and has its own video showing you how to do it. But the final piece in planning a marketing campaign is to make sure that you're not just dropping it and leaving it, you're live and monitoring. You're doing check-ins. Not every task will be due for the same day. Not every output will be on the same week. So you're having those check-ins where you know what everyone is doing, even if it's just you, and you're on top of everything. Of course, these templates are set up so that at the end you can have a retro, but that's only if things are not as you expected. We'll talk about retros in a later video. So that's the step-by-step of the actual elements and the order in which you need to plan your marketing campaign. But where do you need to focus your time, effort, and energy? If you are a very small team, if you are a startup that's looking to bootstrap, or if you are doing everything by yourself, you only have a finite amount of time, effort, and energy. So this is where you need to focus it. The main bulk of your time, effort, and energy, as I say, is the unsexy work. It is the audience research. When we look at the most successful brands in the world, including Formula One, including Netflix, including Nike, they spent sometimes years, and millions of dollars on audience research. You don't have that time, you don't have that money, but what you do have is a lot of ability to understand who your audience is. If you don't know how to do this properly, it is in my course. Head to my website and get that. I will do a video on it because I'm not here to gatekeep. I'm here to make your lives easier and to cut through the noise of how much there is around marketing. But focusing your effort and energy on your audience drives better marketing results than having a big splashy campaign, ad, or video. The best results come from knowing your audience inside out. So focus on your audience first. The next thing to focus on is your narrative and storytelling. All your time, effort, and energy needs to go into who are you talking to and how are you talking to them. Everything else is something that can be quick, low effort, low energy, low focus. Getting the basics right of who you're speaking to and how you're speaking to them is where you need to spend 80% of your time. Everything else comes after. A quick tweet, a LinkedIn post, a 2-camera video. Using the basics of who you're speaking to and how you're speaking to them makes that decision faster, makes that output quicker. In fact, your campaign doesn't need to be planned that well if you've done these 2 things properly. All your best decisions are made from these 2 core things. So when you're planning your marketing campaign, spend the majority of your time doing the pre-work. Know your audience, know how you're talking to them. So how do you set yourself up for success forever? You create strong frameworks. I started this channel because I have worked in marketing for over 15 years, and even the most advanced companies, and I'm talking Netflix, Nike, Chanel, BMW, Gucci, I've worked with them all. They don't always have the best foundational systems. And so a lot of the time, each of these brands is starting from scratch. You don't have that luxury. When you are small, when you are young, when you are starting out, you need to maximize all of your efforts to make sure your outputs are getting the best results. Having a good framework to reference back to is the number one way that you will grow as a brand. That's why I've built it for you. If you build your marketing campaign in Notion, just your first marketing campaign, you will then never have to start from scratch again. Notion enables you to learn as you go. The framework that I've built you gives you space to say what happened, what the results were. It also shows you how the campaign has come together in a timeline, in a calendar, and in a task list. This means that the next time you come to run a campaign, you've done the heavy lifting of the planning. All you need to do is focus your energy and efforts on your audience and your messaging, which is what drives the change, and then plug in the rest of the framework around you. This Notion template also allows you to track and update everything in real time across either your team or yourself so that you're always well informed and you're not trying to remember. Being able to build and reuse a solid foundation for every marketing campaign is how you drive big change for your smaller teams, for your solopreneurs, for people who are just starting out. If you are strapped for time, resource, skill set, or money, this is the only way you should approach running your marketing campaigns. Do it in the right order, focus on the right things, do it in this tool, and you will see your marketing campaigns grow exponentially. I'm Gina. I'm here to give you all the information that would help you grow your business. So please do like, subscribe, and follow along for more.